Hello, I'm N.T. Wright. Welcome to my study here in Oxford. We're going to be looking at St. Paul's letter to the Galatians, chapter 6, verse 2, in which Paul says, "Carry each other's burdens. That's the way to fulfill the Messiah's law." And if you know anything about the letter to the Galatians, you'll know that that's a bit of a paradox, because Paul has spent quite a bit of the letter saying that you don't have to put yourself under the law of Moses, because the law of Moses was given for a time-limited period between Moses and the Messiah to do a necessary job, a necessary but temporary job, and that with the Messiah, that whole regime, and with it the Jewish law of circumcision and the Sabbath and the food laws and so on, are now irrelevant, not because they were a bad thing to be abolished, but because they were a good thing whose purpose has now been fulfilled. But does that mean that we're now random, that we have no sense of direction? Absolutely not. We have what Paul calls the Messiah's law, which, as we know from many passages, is the law of love. The letter of James calls it the royal law, and Paul talks in many passages about being in the law of the Messiah, 1 Corinthians 9, or about the ultimate command of love. How do we know that that's the messianic law? Because love is the key to understand who Jesus was and what he did. Paul says earlier in Galatians, "The Son of God loved me and gave himself for me." Therefore, if you're a Messiah person, if you're one of Jesus' followers, out of that gratitude, you are called to help one another. And so Paul has this vision of a community that lives as a cooperative family. We tend to be very individualistic in Western Christianity and think about me and my salvation. Well, it's important not to lose that, and Paul will give us that as well. But for Paul, it's always we and our corporate life together. And if one person is suffering, we all suffer. If one person is having a struggle, we all ought to be praying for that person, coming to their rescue as best we can. For Paul, that's very practical. It involves money, but also here involves looking out for how people are doing. How is their walk with Jesus going? Can we help them? Bear each other's burdens, come alongside and be ready to help. That's the Messiah's way.